Good afternoon, my distinguished guest. Since I appreciate your patience, we are live from Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, National Open University of Nigeria. We are on our monthly webinar of May. The focus this time navigating the Mediterranean, understanding migration patterns and opportunity in Europe. But before I give a little resume of our guest, I will still want us to have a little background about our center. Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies is a program of evidence-based research about pressing and emerging migration and global challenges in Nigeria, Africa, and the globe. It was established in February 2020 with a seed grant from Tertiary Trust from Third Fund. The center has grown to be a hub emphasis on field-based research that impacts policy formulation and execution for solution to both internal and global migration. We focused on internal capacity building first and foremost, and stress Afrocentric based methods in arts, humanities, social sciences, and science. It is the first of its kind in Nigeria, and innovation with distinct concept, context, perspective, and focus. As a research hub, the center is engaged in research about migration and global studies, both internal and external, and its conceptualization, contextualization, and decolonization are primary for internal paradigms, dimension, and capacity development for field-based research and policy-oriented recommendations arising therefrom. Our migration observatory is field-based, using ethnographic, art method, and extensive narrative that validate theories. The vision of the center is to be the bridge between humanity and the future, while our mission is to provide sustainable leverage for interdisciplinary research in migration and global studies. Our core values are integrity, inclusion, diversity, service, and participatory. The center core mandates are: 1, to provide leverage for field-based and solution-driven research, to serve as an agent of national policy for migration and global studies, to seek grants for academic activities and outreach for sustainability, to publish and sustain peer-reviewed academic journals and monograph series, to collaborate with the stakeholders in the field of migration, global studies, and policy makers, and to organize occasional seminars, conferences, and public lectures in migration and global issues. Currently, I don't have time on our part. Dr. Onusukunso Francis is a development economist and university lecturer with over 8 years of academic, research, and administrative experiences. He holds a PhD in development economics from the prestigious Enugu State University of Science and Technology, and a Master of Science in Economics with distinctions. His expertise spans development finance, financial inclusion, physical industrialization, and economic growth in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa. His international exposure and global engagement. Dr. Noun has participated in international academic and professional engagement, including the Central Bank Research Association seminar in Switzerland, and a housing and a microeconomics workshop at the Paris School of Economics. He holds a peace building certificate from the United States Institute of Peace and a fundraising and development certificate from the University of California, Davis. He is a member of American Economic Association and the International Society for Development and Sustainability, reflecting active engagement with global scholarly community. His research and development contributions include, he has published extensively in peer-reviewed international journals, including Scopus Index Atlas, with research focusing on economic growth, public debt, financial inclusion, energy, economics, and development policy. Dr. Onu is currently a lecturer at the National Open University of Nigeria and previously served as Education Administrator now and Director of a Soft Skill Entrepreneurship Center in Peaceland College of Education in Igbo. His scholarship integrates theory, empirical evidence, and policy relevance, making him suited for academic and professional assessment panel. Distinguished participants, join me as we welcome Dr. Onu Francis as he navigates through this topic. Dr. Onu Francis, I welcome you to the podium.
So my paper is on navigating the Mediterranean, understanding the migration patterns, challenges, and opportunities in Europe. My name is Dr. Chukwunoso Francis Onu. Okay, migration is the movement of people across borders for economic, social, political, or environmental reasons, and remains a defining feature of human history. In today's globalized world, it has become more complex, with about 281 million international migrants worldwide, which represent 3.6% of global population. This is information from the International Organization for Migration 2022. Migration can be voluntarily driven by opportunities such as employment or education, or forced and resulting from conflict, persecution, and environmental crisis, with over 108 million people forcefully displaced globally. This information comes from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, 2024. However, these categories often overlap, creating mixed migration flows. Migration contributes to economic growth, labor supply, remittances, while also promoting cultural diversity. At the same time, it presents supply and remittances. Challenges such as irregular migration, policy tensions, and migrant vulnerability. Overall, migration is a dynamic and multi-dimensional process requiring effective and inclusive policy response. On the Mediterranean context, Mediterranean region is a major global migration corridor, serving as a key gateway for migrants and refugees moving from Africa and the Middle East into Europe. Migration occurs mainly through three routes: western to Spain, central to Italy, and eastern to Greece, with the central Mediterranean route being the most dangerous due to long distances, unseaworthy boats, and limited rescue efforts, according to the International Organization for Migration 2022 and 2023. Migrants often face severe risk in transit countries, especially Libya, including detention and exploitation, according to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees 2023. Despite these dangers, tens of thousands of attempts crossing yearly, influenced by conflict, political instability, border policies, and seasonal conditions. Migrants come from diverse regions such as Sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East. Overall, Mediterranean migration context reflects a complex mix of humanitarian, political, and security challenges shaped by both migration drivers and economic and European policy response. The statement of the program: migration across the Mediterranean remains highly challenging despite ongoing policy efforts, with continued reliance on dangerous irregular routes leading to thousands of deaths each year, making it the world's deadliest migration corridor, according to International Organization for Migration 2023. Significant governance issues persist within Europe, including slow and inconsistent asylum processes and unequal pressure on frontline states like Italy, Spain, Malta, and Greece, complicating the development of a unified system. Additional migrants face integration difficulties such as limited access to jobs, education, social services, which affect both migrants and host communities. Overall, there is a clear gap between migration realities and existing policy responses, highlighting the need for more coordinated and sustainable solutions. The objective and research question. The primary objective of the study is to analyze migration across the Mediterranean by examining its patterns, drivers, and challenges, and implications for Europe. Specifically, the study aims to identify key migration routes and trends in the Mediterranean region, examine the socio-economic and political drivers of migration, assess the challenges faced by migrants and receiving countries, evaluate the impact and opportunities associated with migration. The research questions are: what are the dominant migration patterns across the Mediterranean? What factors drive individuals to migrate through the routes? What challenges do migrants encounter during and after migration? How does migration affect European economies and societies? What policy measures can improve migration management and output? The significance of the study. The study is important because it deepens understanding of Mediterranean migration, a key area in global migration dynamics. It provides valuable insights for policymakers by identifying gaps and suggesting more effective coordinated responses. The findings are relevant to organizations like the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and the International Organization for Migration, while also contributing to balanced public discussion on migration overall. It supports evidence-based and humane policy development. Scope and limitations. The study focuses on migration flows across the Mediterranean into Europe, particularly along the western, central, and eastern routes, analyzing trends from the past decades and considering economic, social, political, and policy dimensions. However, it is limited by reliance on secondary data from sources such as United Nations High Commission for Refugees, International Organization for Migration, and Eurostat, which may contain gaps or inconsistencies. Additionally, regular migration is difficult to measure, meaning actual figures may be underestimated. Despite this, the study offers a reliable overview by using multiple data sources and analysis. Migration theories that we considered in this study include the Ernest George Levenstein law of migration, developed in 1885 and also advanced in 1889, emphasizes short distance, stepwise and economically driven migration, though they are limited in explaining modern forced migration. Another one is the pull-push theory of Lee, developed in 1966, explain migration through push factors like poverty, conflict, hunger, insecurity, and others, and pull factors like opportunities in Europe, good health, good education, and other things. Intervening obstacles such as border control. Another one we consider a gravity model of migration inspired by Isaac Newton's law, adopted by George, links migration to population size, meaning that bigger countries seem to attract migrants from less developed countries. Here we say link migration to population size, economic growth, and distance within Europe, acting as a major attraction. And lastly, we talk of the Zelensky migration theory. It connects migration pattern to stages of development, linking that though the lower developed countries seems to migrate more. Here we say that explaining movement from less developed regions to more advanced ones, together these theories provide a comprehensive but exhaustive explanation, but not exhaustive explanation of Mediterranean migration. Methodology. This study uses a qualitative approach based on secondary research and desk review to analyze Mediterranean migration. It draws on data from institutions such as the International Organization for Migration, United Nations High Commission for Refugees, European Commission, Eurostat, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the World Bank, alongside academic literature and policy documents such as the Common European Asylum System and 1951 Refugee Convention. Data driven mainly from 2018 to 2026 were analyzed using thematic and content analysis, focusing on migration patterns, drivers, risks, and policy responses, with comparison across countries like Italy, Spain, Greece, and Malta. The methodology is stable due to the availability of extensive existing data and the transnational nature of migration, while reliability is ensured through triangulation and use of credible sources. Ethical standards were maintained through proper citation and use of publicly available data. However, limitations include possible data gaps, inconsistencies, institutional bias, and overall, the approach provides a comprehensive and balanced understanding of Mediterranean migration. Results and discussion. The study finds that Mediterranean migration is a complex and dynamic process driven by economic, political, and social and environmental factors, with the region serving as a major route into Europe through the western, central, and eastern pathways. The central Mediterranean route remains the most dangerous, with high fatality rates reported by International Organization for Migration. The migration patterns are shaped by push factors such as conflict, poverty, and climate pressures, and pull factors like economic opportunities and stability in Europe, while policies and border controls influence flows. Migrants face serious risks, including exploitation, trafficking, detention, and unsafe journeys with women and children being especially vulnerable. At the same time, migration offers benefits such as contribution to the labor market, economic growth, cultural diversity. Overall, the finding shows that Mediterranean migration is not a security issue, but a humanitarian and development concern, requiring balanced, coordinated policies that integrate border management, human rights protection, and long-term integration strategies. On discussion of migration routes, migration across the Mediterranean occurs through three main routes. As I said before, the Western, Central, and the Eastern Mediterranean corridors. The Western corridor connects Morocco and Algeria to Spain and became more active after tighter controls reduced crossing through Greece. Though journeys to the Canary Island remains highly dangerous, according to the European Commission, the Central Mediterranean route linking Libya and Tunisia to Italy is considered the deadliest due to the unsafe boats, along sea crossing, and widespread abuse faced by migrants in Libya. The Eastern Mediterranean route connects Turkey to Greece and became prominent during the 2015 to 2016 refugee crisis between the EU and Turkey agreement, before the EU and Turkey agreement reduced arrivals. Overall, these routes are highly dynamic, with migrants and smuggling networks constantly adapting to changing border controls, political conditions, and enforcement measures. This is the graphical representation of the two routes. You can see from here, Morocco to France and Spain, Tunisia, Tripoli, Libya to Italy and Malta, and you can also see that of Turkey to Greece. Then discussion on trends and patterns. Migration trends across the Mediterranean have changed significantly over the past decade due to conflicts, economic hardship, and policy interventions. The 2015-16 migration crisis saw over 1 million arrivals through the Eastern Mediterranean route, but stricter border controls and agreements such as the EU-Turkey deal later reduced flows and redirected migration towards the central and western routes. Recently, migration has increased again, especially through the central Mediterranean, driven by instability in Libya, economic challenges in Africa, and the impact of COVID-19. Overall, Mediterranean migration remains highly dynamic, with migrants and smuggling networks continuously adapting to changing political and border conditions. Discussion on drivers of migration. Migration across the Mediterranean is driven by interconnected push and pull factors. Push factors include conflict, political instability, economic hardship, unemployment, and environmental challenges such as climate change and desertification, which forces people to leave their home countries. Pull factors include Europe, economic opportunities, political stability, access to asylum system, and support from established migrant communities already there. Migration decisions are highly influenced by a combination of these factors together with availability of migration routes and smuggling network. Discussion on risk and vulnerability. Migration across the Mediterranean is one of the most dangerous migration processes, exposing migrants to severe physical, social, and psychological risk. Many migrants travel in overcrowded and unsafe boats, leading to thousands of deaths and disappearances each year. Smuggling networks often exploit migrants through high fees, abuse, and dangerous travel conditions, especially in unstable transit countries such as Libya, where migrants may face detention, violence, and forced labor and extortion. Women and children and unaccompanied minors, particularly vulnerable to exploitation and trafficking. In addition, prolonged exposure to violence, uncertainty, and poor living conditions often cause serious mental health challenges, according to World Health Organization 2022. Overall, Mediterranean migration reflects deep structural inequalities and requires stronger protection measures, safer migration pathways, and international cooperation. Legal and policy barriers, discussion on it. Legal and policy framework in Europe strongly influenced migration across the Mediterranean by shaping access to asylum, border control, and legal migration opportunities. Increased scrutinization, including stricter border enforcement, and the expansion of agencies such as Frontex has redirected migration towards more irregular and risky routes, according to the European Commission 2023. Limited legal migration pathway also push many migrants to rely on smuggling networks, increasing their vulnerability. In addition, lengthy asylum procedure, unequal responsibility sharing under the Dublin regulation, and the differences in national asylum system creates uncertainty, pressure on frontline states such as Italy, Greece, Spain, and Malta, according to the European Commission 2023. Overall, these legal and policy barriers shape migration patterns and highlight the need for more coordinated and protection-oriented migration policies. The humanitarian concern discussion. The humanitarian concern are a major aspect of Mediterranean migration, particularly regarding migrants' deaths, rescue operations, and conditions. Thousands of migrants continue to risk dangerous sea crossing each year, making effective search and rescue operations essential, although coordination and political disagreement often limit their effectiveness. Reception and detention centers in parts of Southern Europe frequently face overcrowding, poor sanitation, inadequate health care, worsening migrants' physical and mental well-being. Migrants also encounter barriers to health care, education, and legal support due to language, legal status, administrative challenges in transit countries such as Libya. Reports of of torture, forced labor and extortion, abuse in detention centers remain widespread, according to UNHCR. Overall, these humanitarian issues highlight the need for stronger protection measures, improved living conditions, and greater international cooperation grounded in human rights principles. Integration challenges, discussion. The integration of migrants into European society is a complex process involving economic, social, cultural, and legal dimension. Migrants often face barriers to employment, including language difficulties, limited recognition of qualifications, and lack of professional networks, resulting in lower employment rates and job insecurity. Language barriers also limit access to education, healthcare, social services, affecting overall participation in the societies. Social integration can be further challenged by discrimination, negative public attitude towards migrants, and according to the Pew Research Center 2018. In addition, legal status strongly influence integration outcome, as migrants with uncertain status often face restricted access to opportunities and services. Overall, effective integration requires coordinated policies that promote inclusion, equal opportunities, and social cohesion. On the economic impact, discussion on it, migration across the Mediterranean has significant economic impact on European countries, particularly on labor market, public finance, and economic growth. Migrants help fill labor shortages in sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, construction, and hospitality, especially as Europe faces aging population and declining birth rate. Evidence shows that migrants contribute substantially to growth, employment growth, and over time often pay more in taxes and social contributions than they receive in public benefits, particularly when we're integrated into the labor market. Although concern exists about pressure on low-skilled jobs and wages, studies indicate that overall impact on native workers is generally limited and context-dependent. Migrants also contribute through entrepreneurship, innovation, and remittances, and with global remittances flows, providing major financial support to developing countries like Nigeria. Overall, this migration can create short-term integration costs if long-term economic effects are largely when supported by inclusive policies. On social and cultural impact, the discussion, migration across the Mediterranean has significantly increased cultural diversity in European societies, enriching urban life through new languages, tradition, cuisines, art, and social practices. Diversity can promote creativity, innovation, and resilience, particularly in knowledge-based economies. However, migration can also create social challenges, including language barriers, cultural differences, discrimination, social tensions, especially when combined with socioeconomic inequalities. Public attitudes towards migrants remain mixed, with concern about cultural integration and national identity influencing social cohesion. Effective integration policies, education, language programs, and intercultural dialogue are therefore essential for promoting inclusion and strengthening social cohesion in increasing diverse societies. The political implication. Migration across the Mediterranean has become a major political issue in Europe, strongly influencing election, policy debates, regional cooperation. Since 2015-16 migration crisis, political parties have increasingly focused on migration, border control, security, and national identity, contributing to the rise of populist and nationalist movements. Migration have also created divisions among European states, particularly over responsibility sharing under the Dublin regulation, which places pressure on frontline countries as Italy, Malta, Spain, and Greece. At the same time, agreement with transit countries like Turkey and Libya, Morocco, have aimed to reduce illegal migration, but have raised concern about human rights and protection standards. Overall, migration continues to shape European politics by affecting public trust, regional cooperation, and debates over sovereignty and globalization and European integration. On the opportunities, Mediterranean migration presents important opportunities for both migrants and European host communities. Migration can help address European aging population and labor shortage by supporting migration, workforce growth, and economic sustainability. Migrants also contribute to entrepreneurship, innovation, and economic development, with many actively creating business and jobs. In addition, migration strengthens global connectivity through trade, investment, and remittances, knowledge exchange between origin and destination countries. Socialist migration promotes cultural diversity, intercultural dialogue, and broader perspective within increasing multicultural societies. It also encourages policy innovation and enhances societal resilience by introducing new skills, ideas, and networks. Overall, these opportunities can maximize through inclusive policies that support integration and protection and protect migrants' rights. Policy frameworks, the EU and national discussion. Migration governance in Europe is based on a combination of EU-wide regulation and national policies. The Common European Asylum System aims to harmonize asylum procedures and protection standards across member states, but the implementation remains uneven. The Dublin regulation requires asylum seekers to apply in the first EU country they enter, and has placed heavy pressure on frontline states such as Italy, Greece, Spain, and Malta, prompting calls for fairer responsibility sharing under the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. At the same time, EU has strengthened border control through agencies such as Frontex and increased surveillance measures. Although critics argue that these policies can push migrants towards more dangerous routes, national policies also vary widely, with some countries focusing on integration and humanitarian protection, while others adopt stricter migration control. Overall, European migration governance faces ongoing challenges in balancing border security, policy coordination, and human rights and protection of migrants' rights. Then case studies of nations. National case studies of Italy, Greece, and Spain shows Mediterranean migration policies differ according to geographic and political context. Italy, a major entry point of the central Mediterranean route, combines both search and rescue operations with agreement with Libya to reduce departures, though cooperation with Libyan authorities has raised concerns about the migrants' abuse and detention conditions. Greece faced intense pressure during the 2015-16 migration crisis, which overcrowded reception centers and strained asylum systems, prompting reforms to improve asylum procedures and living conditions. Spain, along the Western Mediterranean route, has adopted a more balanced and strategy that combines border enforcement, cooperation with Morocco, and migrant reception and integration programs, according to the European Commission 2023. Overall, these cases highlight the need for context-specific policies that balance migration control with humanitarian protection. The future trends. Discussion. Future trends across the Mediterranean is expected to continue due to high demographic and economic inequalities between Europe and neighboring regions, especially rapid population growth and limited job opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa. Climate change, including desertification, water scarcity, and extreme weather, is also likely to increase displacement and migration pressure, particularly in vulnerable regions such as Sahel. Within Europe, the success of the new pact on migration and asylum will influence how migration is managed through improved coordination and shared responsibility. In addition, technological developments such as biometric systems and digital border control are expected to shape migration governance, although they also raise concerns about privacy and data protection. Overall, future migration trends will be influenced by interconnected demographic, environmental, political, and technological factors. Lastly, conclusion and recommendation. Migration across the Mediterranean remains a complex challenge that requires coordinated and balanced policy responses. Key priorities include fairer responsibility sharing among EU member states through reforms such as the Dublin regulation, expanded safety and legal migration pathway to reduce irregular migration and smuggling, and stronger integration policies focused on language, education, and employment support. International cooperation is also essential to address the root causes such as conflict, poverty, and environmental degradation. while ensuring the protection of migrants' rights. Overall, sustainable migration governance depends on combining border management with humanitarian protection and evidence-based policies. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Shukunoso for that excellent presentation. And once again, we need to appreciate all our distinguished participants on the time situation. So we now want to give room for comments, questions, and observations. We have done enough on navigating the Mediterranean, understanding migration pattern, challenges, and opportunity in Europe. Once again, we want to appreciate you very well. So now give room for questions, contributions. Yeah. We want to appreciate Professor Tijani and our colleague, past director to Professor Gloria. We want to take the first response from our permanent director, Professor Tijani. You have the floor, sir.
Professor, congratulations first and foremost. I think my successor, Professor Aneto's hand was up before mine, and also as our mother, I will yield to her going first with your approval, sir.
So we want to appreciate you for that honor, sir.
Thank you.
And for accommodating our inadequacies today because of network challenges.
It happens.
Professor Neto, even though it's on official assignment in Faraway Kogi State, she's with us. So you have the floor, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Tijani, for allowing the small ones to take over. Thank you so much. I just felt that being our director's first presentation, we need to give him the support required. That's why I'm shuttling between my official assignment and just looking in here. So I really thank the presenter, Dr. Francis Ono, for his presentation. I think he's just reminded us of many things happening as they are. And I must appreciate his, I was looking at his references. They are quite recent, and I think that was a good effort to put such references. But I want to quickly say, well, this is done, but I want to say that maybe the PowerPoints should be less crowded the way I saw it. Next time, just a few points and then you address the issues as you have really addressed. So you just make a few points on your PowerPoint so that we can really follow. But I think it was quite intense, and we can't say repeat it because you have done it, but you really did a good research. I appreciate you for coming up with at least data and, good research to tell us about this European problem that we all know. I also want to thank the director, Professor Shaibu, that even though you had some challenges here and there, at least you are able to focus. I know that there was echo here and there, which will be handled from time to time. And of course, you also did your outing no matter what. And that's the spirit. You have really tried for your first opening. I think I appreciate you too, the way you are appreciating Professor Tijani and I. And I know Professor Tijani will do justice to this analysis because I saw him really concentrating, his biro ready. I said, yes, Prof is there. While I am shuttling up and down, let me hope that he followed everything. So thank you very much, Dr. Ono, for setting this ball rolling. At least you have brought us your work so that we can contribute to your academic exercise, and we really appreciate you. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Prof.
Once again, we want to appreciate Professor Aneto for your resilience and for being multidimensional. You are on Noun assignment and you are here with us too. At this point, we want our Grandmaster, the pioneer director who laid the foundation that we are just wondering. Let's hear from him. Let the oracle speak, and we are trusting you for your Solomonic wisdom, sir. Professor Tijani, sir. After that, Dr. Wisdom will take the floor.
Thank you very much. I am borrowing from the wisdom of Dr. Wisdom and Professor Neto, because seek you the kingdom of God and every other thing will follow, which is the wisdom. I want to thank you for this, your maiden moderation of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies. Of course, the unquestionable first center of excellence in our nation, Nigeria, to be sponsored by TED Fund. And thank God that is no longer a controversy, because we have evidently showed the nation that we are indeed the first. Having said that, I want to commend the audacity of Dr. Onu for sharing knowledge with us and for imparting us, notwithstanding the imperfection that is common to all of us in our research and presentation. Professor Aneto mentioned the first thing I noted also, and I was hoping the presenter or someone will alert him to do a slide show rather than the way he presented all. That is in addition to the cloudy, slides. Okay, so we need to take note of that. And that goes to all of us as we try to make a presentation anywhere in the world. PowerPoint, Google slide, Canva slide, whatever it is supposed to be a synthesis, a salient point of our ideas, and then we speak to it. So having said that, I will build upon that to appeal, before I forget, to the director. There is a need for us to have at least a day workshop on seminar on paper presentation. I'm also building on my colleagues' note as well as my own note based on this presentation and based on what we've observed before. There is a difference between your paper, my paper, as a doctoral chapter or master's project chapter or even a bachelor's chapter process. And what do I mean? In a presentation like this, some of the outline we may want to avoid it. So we need a workshop, not a lecture. A one-day workshop like the one currently going on at UI. And I'm also multitasking. Okay. So where we will talk the nitty-gritty. It goes also to the fact that when you finally review and you consider CMGS journal for publication, you have to revise. There's a difference between the way we write for dissertation or thesis and the way we should be writing for journal article or even a book chapter. Okay. That again implies that the Center of Excellence should lead the way in educating us, working with the PG school, for instance. I have seen a lot of one size fits all, and I'm battling with that to say that no, it is just not the way things should be done. Having said that, I have some, way forward for this presentation. I look at the title of your paper. It says, Navigating the Mediterranean, Understanding Migration Patterns, Challenges and Opportunities in Europe. And my number 6 on this note is data, question mark. What are the opportunities in Europe, question mark. I'm asking those questions because the presenter seems to focus or give us a general view of this important topic, which is good. But what will make you unique is specificity. Specificity within the context of, for instance, I've seen so many papers out of the general presentation. They have so much educated us, and we thank you for that. I personally thank you. Specificity in terms of, for instance, a focus on IOM reports. That alone, you can do a lot. The IOM report, you can just focus on that within the context of the Mediterranean. Then you can also be specific by looking at Mediterranean transit migration. I didn't hear anything about that. Maybe in your larger work, I don't know whether this is coming from your doctoral thesis or is an ongoing project, but I think if you look at the 40 government partner states that made up the Mediterranean transit migration, MTM, not MTN, MTM, okay? You can focus on that alone to look at what they have done in mitigating the challenges that is part of your title. I also noted here that results and discussion, you need a deep specificity rather than generalization. You can do specificity study by looking at the first two that I mentioned, IOM or the MTM, but you also can look at individual narratives. You can pick Tijani as there are several case studies, and then the narrative can showcase the challenges, the opportunities, if eventually they made it. Okay? Institutional case studies with specificity. You start off with a general, and then you zero down to specificity and create a unique platform for yourself where you begin to make your dollars or naira in terms of being invited here and there, or your articles when published being cited. Lastly, without taking much of your time, I think there is a need for more ethnographic research base. You mentioned methodology, and then you mentioned theories. And I think one of the best way to validate or invalidate theories or concepts is to engage in ethnographic or archival or even newspaper digital records. I did not hear that, and I hope when you go back to the drawing table, or maybe you have that in a larger space in your work, that you can share with us. Thank you very much for educating us. It's been a learning moment, and I thank you for allowing me to speak for this long. Thank you very much.
Yeah, once again, we want to appreciate
Thank you,
Professor for that wonderful contribution, and I'm sure it's going to enrich Dr. Sunuso's paper that will eventually be used for publication at any level that he wants. Once again, we appreciate your patience. Before 12, we know Professor Henry was already online, and despite the internet challenges, he was with us all through. We appreciate you so much. Let's hear from Dr. Wisdom, what you have to add to what the upcoming Professor Emeritus have said. Dr.
Thank you very
Wisdom.
much. Thank you very much, my director. I appreciate the two first speakers, our pioneer director and Professor Gloria Ameto, our former director. I appreciate the presenter, especially on the focus of the paper in migration across the Mediterranean, that shows aspects of patterns of migration from the global south. Yeah, I also appreciate the, the sources of the data. As you mentioned, they appear to be very authoritative sources. United Nations, IOM, these are very high-profile organizations. But I expect the presenter to tie the data with the objectives in terms of presenting the results, findings. It appears as if everything was lumped together. And so we do not see which data is collected or was collected to achieve a particular objective. So it becomes a serious concern. So the data should be disaggregated. You present the data and then you discuss the results. I'm not really seeing efforts in that direction. And so because the results are lumped together, we can clearly demarcate which of the objective has been achieved and to what extent it has been achieved, and which data from which sources has been used to achieve these objectives. And I believe if it does that in the paper, it will actually help to improve on the quality of the paper. And then the theoretical frameworks. He mentioned up to 4 theories. The Ravenstein theory, the Lee, these are very elementary theories for this paper or for this kind of work. These are path-finding theories, like Ravenstein 1885. These are earliest works in migration. We have recent theories that we can actually use to investigate this problem, especially for someone that has economic background. There are a lot of migration-related economic theories, like the Harris to Darrow model. It can fit in. Even the world systems theory can fit in, because he is talking of the movement from the global south to the global north. Within this context, the drivers that are involved, the gravity theory may not actually fit in this aspect, because the gravity talks about issues of population size. But again, the question now may be that did the presenter collect data on population size? Did he relate population size with the different countries, or the different countries that these migrants are coming from? So, because the gravity theory, states that the attractional force between two objects are directly proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. And if you import that into migration, we will not extend the theory to say that the interaction, which is the places of destination of these migrants, is directly proportional to the population of their settlement and inversely proportional to the square of distance. In other words, the distance where they are coming from. So there is no data as far as this work is concerned to support this theory. And data and theory is used for explanation. It helps you to explain the data. It gives you focus to mirror the problem, to be able to have direction, and at the end be able to integrate the findings with the theory. We can't see that in this work. So I would suggest the presenter should revisit the theories to be able to look at theories that are recent, like the Harris Durado. We have some of these new classical economic theories that you can use to explain the problem.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wisdom.
Finally, at some point in the result, is so much dwelled on integration. But in the objective, there is nothing like integration. Is it an opportunity or an impact? So all these things have to be clarified. Thank you.
We want to appreciate the contribution from Dr. Wisdom, and I'm sure Dr. Sunoso is listening. All this is to enrich your paper so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to stand alone. I want to recognize Dr. Teresa Okoli from Department of Peace Studies. Is part of us here, has been here from the beginning. I appreciate you being here with us. So the floor is open for you.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good afternoon to us. The Professor Tijani and all the, I can see Professor Tijani and others here, I greet you all. Thank you so much, Dr. Ono, for this wonderful presentation and adding to the body of knowledge. You just spoke on navigating the Mediterranean, understanding migration pattern, challenges and opportunities in Europe. Now, I just have, I'm a bit curious because I think I really didn't hear this when you were actually presenting your findings. I just want to ask, is there a procedure for handling immigration or customs clearance when moving between non-European countries and European countries or waters? Perhaps if you can also include that in perhaps in your work, that may also give us more light on most of these immigration clearances and customs clearances in navigating both European country and non-European countries. Did you get that, sir?
Are you true?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So once again, we appreciate one of our meted PhD holder in the Faculty of Social Science. We appreciate your contribution, Dr. Teresa. Let's hear from Dr. Joyce. Your hands has been up. We appreciate you. So, Dr. Joyce, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Director, sir. I want to appreciate and acknowledge those that have spoken before me, especially our senior professors, Professor Tijani, Professor Gloria, Professor Neto, and all the other professors that have spoken. So I've all spoken well. And Mr. Presenter, Mr. Dr. Francis, thank you for your paper, your presentation. It's actually quite good. And there are so many challenges and crises from this paper based on this Mediterranean route that migrants are actually taking out of desperation to get to their destination. You know, I was looking at the data that was presented and I saw this year alone a report from IOM saying over 1,003 people have already died. And I just tried to look at the year. We're just in May, you know, the year have not gone halfway. And we have over, they say 64% increment every year from 2023, 2024 to 2025. It's like people are dying in this sea, people are dying, people are being stranded, and rather than that, frightening other people, more people are even running into it. And the question now is, we now realize that when countries bring strong policies to prevent people from migrating into this country, that does not deter people from going. Rather, it now makes people to take more dangerous routes to get to their destination. I'm just trying to ask if in your recommendation is a way you can give some policy recommendations that will actually make it possible to discourage people. You know, we can't ask countries to open their border freely for people to just keep coming in. Definitely, we can't do that. One shouldn't recommend that because there's a high risk at that level. But what can be done to prevent people from risking their life this much with such a staggering and frightening figure? We're seeing so many figures online, and these are actually frightening. Say since 2014, we have over 82,000 migrants that have been stranded and a higher number that have even died. And yet the numbers keep going higher and higher every day. Please, I think if you can recommend something, and let it be in your paper. Fortunately, you're presenting this paper here. The paper will actually be online if you finally pick it up and present it here. And you don't know who can read it. So let's have that and a check on the policy at least to make sure that there's a way to deter people from risking their life. But people will definitely want to migrate. Considering the drivers that were presented, everybody wants a better life, assumed better life. Let me put it that way. Thank you.
Yeah. Once again, I want to appreciate Dr. Joyce for that insightful contribution. We have tried. It's a long day. Let's return back to Dr. Ono for his response. But one thing you should know that all the observations, you have to take note of it. We at the center are taking note of some that concern us. It will help to build your paper to meet international standards. So let's listen to you. Are not on trial. We are just exchanging ideas on how to make the paper much more better. Over to you, Dr. Ono.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah, you have the floor. Meanwhile, I still want to emphasize our distinguished participants to check the link on the chat box so that we can take note of the attendance. You know, we have a founder that may need to know what we are doing. And one of the checklists, apart from the pictorial presentation, the attendance matters. And I want to appreciate everybody. We started with 18, we're almost 26 now. And I think it's a good way of starting, considering the fact that the university is inside the exam and so many meetings are going on. Over to you, Dr. Ono. Dr. Ono, we are waiting for your response.
Hello, Prof. I didn't hear all the questions, but I heard that of the one that said of recommendation on alternative route to safer migration. And we said that here that
can I give you some of the questions?
Yes, go ahead, Prof.
One, there was a general observation that there is a need for us to distinguish between a seminar presentation like this or someone that has a thesis that want to make an abbreviation from it. Secondly, your slide is a little bit clumsy. You know, PowerPoint was the PowerPoint, not just MS Word. Then you start dividing into subheading. Then we're equally trying to look at what are the opportunities in Europe that people are rushing to. Then you need to be specific. Specificity is very, very important. That the topic you pick is a very broad one. You can look at IOM report. It can be a focus. You can look at Mediterranean transit migration. You know, that means from this paper, you can even get 2 or 3 more paper. And that the theoretical framework, most of those theories you propounded, they are too weak for the kind of work you are doing. And there's a need for you to update those theoretical framework in the light of modern studies that are going on. Then there were some recommendations you have that was not in your research question or research objective. You need to look at it. Then the research should be more ethnographic based. It's another serious area of concern. And then your recommendation should be specific. We don't need to be generic again, because the issue of ground, nobody is fair, whether you like it or not. Between January and now, from your presentation, over 1,000 people have died, and many people are living. I think just last 2 weeks, American open visa for doctor, and we learned that 4,000 doctors Nigeria has applied to leave the country. So what do you think should be able to address some of these issues? I think these are some of the questions and observations that will enrich your paper. Over to you.
Okay, Prof. Okay, Prof. The first one, issue of slide, okay, I've taken note of that. I'll work on it next time. Then issue of opportunities in Europe. Europe has so many economic opportunities and security as well. So that's why you see a whole lot of people going to Europe for economic opportunities. A whole lot of education, health, and other things. Some also going for social security purpose. But I know the major thing, the major drive is economic opportunities in Europe. In terms of theoretical framework, I was able to use theories that I deemed necessary or important in the work I want to do, and I was able to choose 4. It's an alternative routes to Europe. The alternative, instead of going for irregular migration, they should make a European system, or the European countries should have a direct link with people, or establish a direct link with the government of developing countries on people that want to migrate on a regular basis. Instead of irregular migration, they can take that route and go to Europe, for those who desire to go to Europe. I think that's the answers to the questions, Prof.
I think you are okay. Are you true to, some of these things you can still check the center office for some of the observation made to enrich your paper, because the paper can be published in the center journal free of charge, or you may still take it to anywhere you want, but we need it. These corrections are meant to build the paper for sustainability. So once again, we thank you for the boldness and the courage to appear, and we pray God will sustain you. At this point, I want to once again appreciate everybody. People should not be tired of me if I continue mentioning Professor Tijani, Professor Aneto, Professor Roye, because I happen to be the 4th center director now, and the popular saying is that a river that forgets its source dries so fast. I need to continue to dwell on the fountain of knowledge. So once again, we want to appreciate Professor Tijani for your time, your patience. You are even having a program too in Ibadan. We want to appreciate Professor Aneto for building on the foundation laid by Professor Tijani, and Professor Roye. The short time he spent is very eventful, and we all need ourselves to build this center to the level that, being the first, we must continue to be first among people. I want to equally appreciate my other participants. I saw my active director, Mrs. Doris Izenwa. I saw Mrs. Dr. Teresa, Dr. Fortune, and so many people that I cannot mention your name. You have done so well. I want to equally appreciate the whole staff of the center. When the internet challenge comes, we're all running rat race to make sure the needful is done. And I think that is the best way to go. With teamwork, we'll be able to achieve much. So once again, I appreciate everybody. And I want to inform our participants that very soon the center is coming with almost about 2 or 3 programs, an international conference, a workshop, and marking the World Migration Day. All this we are looking forward onto it because you are our raw material. Without you, we cannot do anything. I know the turnout may be a little bit low this time around, but going forward, a lot need to be done. And I want to thank our ICT support for all that they have done. We'll do better, and please bear with our inadequacies today. God will help us to go further than this. On that note, I believe you have checked the chat box for the attendance. On that note, we'll bring this month seminar to a close and trusting God to see all of us in June. Once again, I appreciate all. Goodbye and have a nice day. Thank you so much.